Katana Zero, a game you might have heard of, partially because it is somewhat popular, and partially because it's really good. A masterpiece to its core, and a game that has both a good story that I won't be spoiling here, and incredibly satisfying combat that I cannot recommend enough. I'd honestly go, if you're just looking for a recommendation of whether or not you should buy it, give it a go. Trust me, you won't regret it. It's really good. Especially if you like games like Hotline Miami, you'll love this. It is insanely good, and we're going to talk a little bit about it today. And I don't have much more to say. Let's just get straight into it. So, what is Katana Zero? Katana Zero is a side-scrolling action game. I will be comparing it a little bit to something like Hotline Miami, just because there are some elements that can be compared, and it helps create a picture of what it actually is. Katana Zero is, as I said, a 2D side-scrolling action game, where you run through a level, you only have one life, anything that hits you, including any throwable that hits yourself, is an insta-kill and you can restart the level. However, what is so cool about this is that everything is super fast. So you have the ability to slow down time. So all of a sudden you're moving in this Matrix style of world where you can one-shot anybody other than bosses. And there are some boss fights which are all done really well. But you run through the world, then you stab the people, you gotta stab, you slide the throat, and then you continue. It's all super gory and super visual, but god damn if the sword that you're using doesn't feel well. You start out with a katana, and once you've completed the game, you do get access to other swords that you use, such as Claymore, and they all have their own unique thing. The katana, as an example, is just a base sword. It does nothing else, but my favorite sword is the prism sword. Now you might be wondering, what does the prism sword do? It turns all the blood spatter into rainbow colors, and it is cute. I like it. And there are other examples, such as when you're deflecting bullets, which you can do with your katana. So if somebody shoots you, you can deflect a bullet. If you're using a claymore, if you're being shot with a shotgun, you can deflect all the bullets at once. Another example of a really unique sword is that you can get the Master Sword from Legend of Zelda, that when you're using it in Katana Zero shoots a projectile with a 2-second cooldown. There are multiple examples of these, like there's also a literal flame sword and so on. There aren't a super fuck ton, there is a pretty good amount, there's like 4 or 5 that you can choose from. This game definitely also incorporates speed into its design, being that when you are getting really good at this, if you end up not really using the slow-mo a whole lot, you can speed through the levels incredibly fast, and it makes for a spectacle. Because you see, when you complete a level in Katana Zero, even if you're using the slowdown, you see a recorded playback of it, played in what would be real time. So there is no slowing down when you're slowing down. So you just see your character fly all over the place, slap a guy, stab a guy, throw a beer bottle at another dude. Like, it is really that intense and that cool all at once. And that is only amplified by the fact that you have this really good soundtrack playing in the background that we'll get into later. But the gameplay itself does that a lot, especially in the wider missions. My favorite is one called Chinatown, where you are introduced to a new enemy type. I'm not going to spoil too much of it, but the entire level design is so well done, because you have so many ways of approaching a fight. You could go in and stab them. You could also break out from the top window, jump down, hit a drone that then flies down into oil barrels that explodes everything. You have a lot of options in how you want to approach an encounter in especially Chinatown, but in every level really. And then we have the boss battles, which, oh my god, I love all of them. They all have their own unique quirks and whatnot, but the really cool part of it is that it completely changes the pace, and in my opinion it does it for the better. It takes a breather sometimes, but most of the time, because you only have one life, you have to dodge through the attacks, you use iframes, you have to be able to just get ready to jump up like mid-attack, mid-enemy attack, and just stab them. And it makes it feel super actiony. It makes it feel like you're playing a Matrix game. And it is only amplified by the story and the stakes as well, which is what I feel like we should get into now. So let's talk a little bit about the story. Katana Zero is such a wonderful game. And I can't spoil all the story, but I can talk about the themes around it and sort of tie them in without spoiling too much. In the game, you're playing as an old veteran, and here is the thing. The game shows an incredibly realistic picture of how some veterans are, well, treated, unfortunately, and they do it in a very realistic manner. And I think it sort of hits different, especially because some of the characters, you're living in a futuristic city, you're living in like the bad area of the city, and you get to know a child in the same neighborhood as you. And in the game, that child sort of throughout the game ends up becoming sort of a daughter for the main character, which is definitely displayed in your choices. You go from being just a no and like go away to letting this child into your apartment, watch TV with you, and like go and watch a movie and stuff. It's super cute, and it ends up really putting the stakes up there when she all of a sudden then disappears. Like, there are a lot of those things in the game where they know how to write a game, is what I'm trying to say. They know how to put the stakes up to make them interesting and unique, and they know how to tell a story that hasn't been told before. Because this isn't just your average ex-military vet story where you are badass man and all of this stuff. You also learn about the character's vulnerabilities and so on. And it makes for a really interesting universe to be in. And it's one that, unfortunately, at the end of the game, they leave you on a cliffhanger that I hope will get continued as we go in and get into more Katana Zero. There's a DLC coming up. I hope it at least expands on a little bit on the story, just expands a tiny bit. But it's really, really something to behold and something that's worth trying. And that being said, that's also what I sort of can talk about without, getting into direct spoilers, which I don't want to, because I think you should experience it for yourself. Because the game does make, the entire thing where you pick different choices of both dialogue, but also what will happen in the game. And they do drastically affect the game. And I think that's sort of something that I don't want to talk too much about, because if I do, I can spoil the choices and the results. So we won't. However, we will be talking about the music, because I did mention that was an absolute banger. In Katana Zero, whenever you start a mission, your character puts in his earpods, and then he puts his music in his Walkman, and he starts it. And it's also how you start listening to the tracks, which all blend in really well with the levels they're in. Most of them are either a combination of techno, lo-fi, or something in between. And they are all incredibly well done. Because meanwhile, sure, they don't exactly accelerate your murder. They make you, sort of feel this concentration, right? That makes a lot of sense with the game that you're playing. As an example, in my opinion, like I've said, Chinatown is just such a really well-made level. With the track that is playing there, it is just really, really good. And in my opinion, personally, even though I really like that one, I think my favorite song from the entire game, if you just want to look one up, is You Will Never Know. And it's just a banger. It just fits so well to the game that you're playing. Meat Grinder's another good one. But it's all of them are like these really good tracks that all sort of fit really well in with the atmosphere of the game and the world it's taking place in. And more importantly, with the art style, which is again pixel art. However, it is done in a more minimalistic style with a high detail on the super violence, again a la Hotline Miami. And in my opinion, it doesn't look bad. I think for most of the time the game manages to actually kind of blow me away because of the, not vivid colors per se, but because of how it's animated. And especially one scene, and I'm not going to spoil too much, but you see the city that it's taking place in from like a better view, and it is so fucking pretty. And it's also a scene where some really heavy story stuff takes place that actually made me cry on my first playthrough. It's just really good. And the thing is, when the art stuff is so well in with the music, it creates a really nice atmosphere, like I've said before, and it ties in really well together. Something like Redfall didn't really do that, and here's again another example like we've had the last 3 weeks of a game that does this super well. But instead of sitting here and talking about the music, I think I'll just let you listen to 30 seconds of one of the tracks from the game. So let's do that, and then let me know how you find it when you're back. So, how did you find it? I usually really like this type of thing as well. But here's the thing, when it comes to Katana Zero, it's not a super long game, but I think it's a masterpiece in the time that it has. It doesn't waste a single moment, and it has some secret unlockables, including a boss fight, that I highly recommend you go for, honestly. It has replay value, and it's just in general a really good game. Obviously, I don't have much more to say about it, other than if you go into your Steam and you go to properties on the game, then you go to betas and then you type not the DLC, you unlock a secret game. This takes a lot of the original missions from Katana Zero and adds them into a new game called Katana Hero, which in the world and the story of the game is a bootleg movie that the main character was gonna buy, so you will have some super goofy dialogue and storytelling, and it is generally just a replay of Katana Zero, but honestly it doesn't matter that much. Because Katana Zero is so fucking good, and it's honestly worth your time. I will also say this, it's one of these games like Katana Zero and whatnot, where in my opinion, if you're struggling, just turn down the difficulty a little bit, no shame in it. I didn't really personally have to, but I think it's okay to do. It's not something that you should be like ashamed of in any way. It's also a game that can at times be really punishing because you have one life, especially a style boss fight that can be incredibly difficult in Katana Zero and Katana Hero. So yeah. Right, and that's about it from what I have. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoy your time here. Thank you for spending some time with me again tonight. And I hope I will catch you all, well, pretty soon, hopefully. Next week with another upload, if nothing else. If you enjoyed what you saw, do the YouTube stuff. And, have a really wonderful day or evening, depending on where you live. And that's been it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you later.